Hello,
Oh,
ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and legionnaires of all ages. Welcome back to the Wrestling Legion Weekend podcast. Welcome back to In Our Opinion. I'm Nick the Geek, and I'm joined as always by my cohort, my co-conspirator, and my co-host. We are joined by the Redeemer, Andy. Andy, how you doing?
You jerk.
Usual. And our very, very special guest this week, my other cohort, co-conspirator and co-host from the Friday Night Show Review. We are joined by the king of wrestling media. We are joined by the World Heavyweight Wrestling with Your Thoughts Fantasy Booking Champion. We are joined by the Drip King himself, Jimmy Bebe. Jimmy, how the hell are you doing?
who, me? I feel honored. That was a great introduction.
Thank you.
Feel like from now on, anytime I enter a room, that's the kind of introduction I expect from anybody and everybody around the world. So,
Yeah.
thank
It's
you.
what you deserve, mate. It's what
Thank
you
you.
deserve.
You do.
Right,
I
I'm
concur.
not going to lie, lads. This was a completely lazy one by me. I've not really come up with any topics.
This guy.
So, yeah, well, I was busy. It was raid weekend, so I've been very busy. But to start things off, I don't really want to talk about it, but I think we've got to talk about it, is Sabu. Now, there's been a lot of controversy over the match with Joey Janela. There's been a lot of controversy over the substances that Sabu was taking to get ready for the match. I personally just want the man to rest in peace and be honoured for what he did for the business. But Jimmy, we'll start with you. What do you think about the controversy? What do you think about everything that's gone on?
So, I don't really follow the controversy like I used to because I've freed my mind of that kind of guck.
Yeah.
But the big things do tend to seep through. Group chats kind of send things in, and I see it. I'll say this about Sabu. I'm not like some kind of crazy big Sabu fan. I'm not going to sit and pretend like I know all this stuff about him. But what I do know is that man tended to go to the beat of his own drum. So the idea that he was forced to do anything is, to me, batshit crazy.
Yeah.
If he didn't want to do something, he wasn't going to do it. So if he didn't want to take the drugs that they forced him to take, he wasn't going to take those drugs.
It's come out that Sabu has been taking, I think it's called Caterham or something.
Kratom.
Which you can
Kratom.
Thank you. Which you can buy at most smoke shops for years now.
Yeah.
So he wasn't forced to take this at all. He's been taking it himself for
Do you
years.
smoke it, Jim, or was it like easy?
I don't know anything about it, but I do think you smoke it.
Yeah.
I'll say this. I saw Sabu the day before the show. Like, he literally sat 5 feet away from me. He looked like he normally did. Like, he didn't look the greatest, but, he put his body through a lot, and he was older. So, I mean, it was what you would expect out of him. So what I saw from then is no different than what I saw from the clips of the match. Unfortunately, I had to leave that show early. I didn't end up getting to see that match, but
Yeah.
I saw no difference from the man I saw the day before and then the guy I saw walk out to that ring. And again, that man doesn't do anything he doesn't want to do. So that whole thing is just kind of someone heard something and then they ran with it.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, it's been noted. Joey Janela did an interview today where he was talking about it and said the fact is Sabu for 3-4 days afterwards was at signings. He was doing his usual tour of the signings around WrestleMania weekend, all the different WrestleCons and everything else. So he seemed fine. So it's other complications, I think, that have happened along the road that have unfortunately made him pass. Andy, what's your opinion on the whole situation?
I think it's probably like, the thing with stuff like that is I think with these old wrestlers, it's more of a melting pot of things. So do I think that match caused his death? No. Do I think it contributed? Potentially. Do you know what I mean? But then the other people saying they've seen him at signings days after, could that have contributed as well? Yes, because, when you get to them kind of age groups, and, Jimmy put it where you're saying you've been through a lot with your body and abused, it's an accumulation rather than one incident that probably causes these things, which, people work in offices and get stressed out and have heart attacks, same kind of thing. It's not one certain situation, it's an accumulation of the grind, isn't it? You know what I mean? And people are aware of that. So, it's one of them. It's like he probably knew the risks of what he was doing. Even if he wasn't feeling well and he still carried on, then, there's no one knows how he's feeling apart from him.
Agreed. Well, that's the thing with Sabu. Well, it's like Jimmy said, no one's ever forced him to do anything in his entire career.
like I think I made the joke with you when I was like, I'm gonna go see Sabu. And I was like, I hope, because it's really where he's decided to do a show, and then last minute he's like, I don't want to do that, so he didn't do it. So, so if he's willing to do that, I just don't see why he'd be like, I'm not gonna take those drugs. And they're like, yes, you are. And he goes, I guess I am.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
no, that's not.
No, Sabu's not done that, and he didn't want to do his whole career, has he? Really? You know what I mean? He's always done what he wanted to do, but
It's black and white thinking, in my opinion. That's what I think.
yeah. And can I just make a very valid point as well? I believe is like, since when has Joey Janela been a promoter?
Exactly. Well,
Because
kind of a while.
It's his show to promote, though. Like, that's kind of his
Yeah.
thing.
it might be his show, but he's not the promoter. He's not the owner. He's not the guy that pays the talent, really, is he? You know what I mean? It might be a bit of a co-promotion thing or his name on it.
Oh,
but
it's definitely a co-thing with
yeah,
Brett Lauderdale
but
and GCW.
Brett's had the final say, is what I'm trying to say. If Brett turned around and said he's not on the show, but same time, I'm not going to blame Brett. The only thing I don't like, and this is the same with boxing, this thing that does my head in. So, like, you know, there was a boxer called Danny Williams in the UK, and I was watching an interview with a Hall of Fame promoter in the UK called Frank Warren. He's very, very famous. Everyone should know him if you follow about any type of boxing. And Frank Warren stated, like, you know, these guys, when they get past it, where they shouldn't really be fighting anymore, he said it's hard because, like, Danny Williams is a good example. He wouldn't sanction Danny Williams in the UK. He wouldn't, well, so not sorry, sanction, he wouldn't promote him anymore because he was like, he's done. On top of that, the British Boxing Board of Control would not sanction him to fight in the UK. So basically, at that point, he should have been done. Unfortunately, there's a lot more promoters around the world that booked him, and he went on to have 14 more fights that he probably shouldn't have done. And I think this is the same problem with wrestling, is like, you know, when WWE have had the time with your AEW or whatever else is, there's a lot of these promoters out there that will book you. And I think the problem that you always have is someone goes, well, you know, do you know what they're doing or whatever else? And also on top of this, well, if I don't book them, someone else will anyway. And I think it's just a cop-out a little bit, do you know what I mean? It's just a matter of, like, everybody needs to say, okay, enough's enough, because sometimes these guys need saving from themselves. But the whole thing that Brett Lauderdale's getting a lot of abuse for is, in my eyes, a bit harsh, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, Sabu is a man, he knows what he's doing. But I do think it should get to a point where these promoters get together and go, do you know what, at this age or this time, we're stopping it, because it's, you know, we need to save these people from themselves. You know, Nick.
I was gonna say two more examples of that is Bryan Danielson with WWE. They weren't gonna they weren't gonna clear him, so they weren't gonna let him wrestle. And then Shibata with New Japan, they weren't gonna clear him, they're gonna let him wrestle. So it's like, okay, well, we will. And thankfully, nothing has happened to these guys.
Correct.
You know, but same scenarios.
You look at myself, Jim. You know, I'm a good example of it. You know, obviously, as you know, I used to do mixed martial arts. I used to fight myself for a long time, and it got to a point where my brother sat me down and said to me, "Andy, you're getting on a little bit. You can't go the way that you used to. You need to start winding it down." And I was kind of like, no, I've got more in me. And he turned around to me and said, all they're going to use you for now is a step up for the other people coming up. You're not going to get to that top bit where you think you are. And lucky enough, I always said to our kid, like, you know, always let me know when I get to that point. And he sat down, had that conversation with me. I turned around and said, okay, this next one's me last. And that was the last time I'd done it. Do you know what I mean? Lucky enough, I had somebody around me who sat me down and made me see sense on it. But what I'm trying to say is, like, as a person, fighter, whether it's wrestling, whatever else it may be, is sometimes you don't realise yourself where you're at. You will still keep on going until you can always think you've got one.
I wasn't laughing at you. I was laughing at your co-host sending this.
Well, no, it's just that, you know, as I said there, it's sometimes people are the worst enemies, and I don't blame promoters per se, but whoever's the person who's getting in touch with the likes of Brett or whoever else who's working with Sabu is in a circle should be saying to him, enough's enough, mate, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. Right, but moving on, just because Dale sent this in, sorry, Andy, it's AEW, but hey guys, first time, long time. When is Ricochet's extraordinary heel work going to get him up the card, and how come never? Go on, Jim.
I disagree wholeheartedly. I think Ricochet is arguably one of the, and this isn't saying, I guess, a whole lot, but I think he's one of the top 3 acts in AEW right now.
Yeah.
I love his work. I think he's made, like, he plays the geek the way it's supposed to be done in AEW. There's a lot of people who are geeks in AEW and it's kind of boring, but he gets heat. Like, he plays into it. He knows his role and he plays it to perfection. And if we've seen anything, if you go back to Swerve kind of did the same thing. He played his role. He did whatever they wanted to. He'd lay down for people. He'd serve this role, whatever. And in the end, he got rewarded for it because that fan base, feeds into it. Ricochet stands out because he's not like everybody else. Like, even though he wrestles like everyone else, he's not like everyone else. And it takes time, and that's all I can say. It happened with Swerve. I can only assume it's going to happen with Ricochet. And they clearly have a plan with this Death Riders thing. So until that thing is done and finito, which should have been months ago, it's not. Until that's done, they can't move to the next step. And I think Ricochet could fall into those plans.
I mean, to talk about the Death Riders, I think the plan is clearly obvious. Darby Allin.
Yes.
And Darby's climbing a mountain right now. So until Darby's finished with that, he's just finished.
I think he reached the top today.
Oh, well, good on him. Yeah. So he's got to come down the thing, which is the most dangerous part.
He just pop and drop off the top.
But no, I'd agree. When it comes to Ricochet, I think he's showing some of the best work that he's done in years because he's showing more character than he has in years. Mm-hmm. Like previously, he's just been the flippy boy that does flippy things. Whereas now, he is showing a lot of character. He's showing a lot of charisma in his gear, in the way he works, in what he's doing. He's getting a lot of heat. Look at all the stuff he did with
Zach Gowen.
Robe with Zach Gowen the other week by stealing his leg. There was all the stuff with Jimmy Rave's robe that he did with Swerve a few months back, which was good to get heat from the Ring of Honor audience. I enjoyed that. What else is still selling here? Swerve's natural charisma.
I'm not saying that they're on the same level. I think Swerve's on a completely other level.
Oh yeah.
But in AEW, I think when you stand out, it's very rare. Swerve was the first guy to me that really stood out from the rest of the pack. And
Agreed.
He ended up getting rewarded for it. And I think Ricochet could get there. And I was saying this, I think, last weekend, where I was like, I never would have thought Ricochet could have reached this level in AEW. I always thought it would be a better fit for him. I didn't know if he'd be able to get to that level. I don't think it's crazy to think he could be someone that dethroned Darby Allin with the AEW title. That's
quite possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite possible. I mean, the crazy thing about AEW is obviously they had the 4 pillars for a long time, Andy, which was Sammy Guevara, MJF, Darby Allin, and
Can I just say something about Ricochet first as well?
Oscar.
So, I don't know what it is with Ricochet, but I like him in the sense of when he's in a match, you're like, okay, he's going to have a good match because he does. That's what he does. The only thing with him is for some reason when he starts speaking, I've always been kind of like, I don't care. And I don't know why. No, like that's not even, it's not a dig. I can't put my finger on why. But it's like he speaks and I'm like, do you know what I mean? I don't know whether it's kind of like, is he the type of wrestler that don't want to speak or like what is it? But I can't put my finger on it.
Well, I think everybody has wrestlers that they just don't connect with. Be it on a
I don't know if it's I don't connect with him because I do connect with him in a way of like when I watch him I go, do you know what, that was a good match, that was pretty cool what he done there. But for some reason, whatever the reason is, it's always been along the way of like, well, when he kind of starts speaking, I'm just like, just shut up and wrestle.
You don't believe what he says.
Yeah, I think I don't believe what he says, but I don't know whether it's just because he's kind of really good in the ring, maybe, where it's kind of like, well, I don't really care what he's got to say because I just want to watch him wrestle, maybe. So, I don't know.
Question, because I haven't talked to you in a minute, but have you watched any of the things he's done in the past 2 months in AEW?
Yeah, I've been watching the clips online and stuff like that. And again, I'm kind of like, when he's wrestling, I'll watch it. When he speaks, I'm still kind of like, kind of get lost in it for some reason.
Okay.
Maybe it's because I mean, when he goes on saying he's going to be the world champion and things like that, I don't know whether it's because of style, but it doesn't seem believable to me. Maybe.
Okay. Well, this goes into what I was about to say with the 4 pillars. In your opinion, who are the attractions in AEW? Meaning, who are the features like someone like Van Damme or Jeff Hardy? Well, I think at the moment, the new 4 pillars in AEW are Timeless Tony Storm, Will Ospreay, Swerve
You
Strickland.
can't have new
and
4
Matt
pillars.
Jackson.
You can't have new 4 pillars.
Okay.
Sorry,
In that
you
case,
silly
the
boy.
new 4 top attractions in AEW currently are Will Ospreay, Swerve Strickland, Timeless Tony Storm, and to a certain extent, still Maxwell Jacob Friedman. Would you agree? Would you disagree?
I'll take Max out, kind of, and I'll put the Hurt Syndicate in.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I don't really
Yeah.
care for it, but it's clearly working for them over there, and
Yeah.
the crowd eats it up. So who am I to say it's wrong? Like, I just think Max with the Hurt Syndicate, that whole storyline has been really good. Whether that continues, I don't know. But those would be my 4.
I think the problem I have with AEW at the moment is consistency. So, like, you know, let's go back to All In last year. It's probably a good example of it, and where the storylines there. You look at that card from last year to where we are now. There's a lot of them are not there now, or not on it.
Yeah.
The consistency's always been the problem, in my opinion.
Yeah,
But-
like the
Yeah,
Blade.
it has.
I tell you, the Blade Runners are a prime example of that. Me flying, and where are they now?
Blade Runners. Sting and the Ultimate Warrior.
Hey, not Blade Runners. What's the 80s tag team?
Outrunners.
Outrunners.
The Outrunners.
That's the
I
one.
mean, the tag team that was arguably one of the greatest fumbles in the history of professional wrestling.
Wrestling.
Yeah, yeah. They were flying, wasn't they? Where are they now? You know what I mean? It's like, come on. You
The
know, like,
Outrunners should have been World Tag Team Champions 6-7 months
yeah,
ago.
yeah, exactly. But now it's like, again, it seems to me like unless they're under the momentum that Tony wants them to be,
Yeah.
it's like it doesn't work out. And for me, it's kind of, I don't know, like, do you know what? I don't want to say it, but I do. It's like he's a weaker version of Vince. He's a version of Vince without the actual outcomes, because Vince used to be quite like that, didn't he? Where if it wasn't somebody that he wanted to get over, he'd push somebody else to the hill. But I mean, obviously there was a few times that he did actually go with what the fans wanted, because he had to, because it was right in his face. Brian was one of them, yeah. Big E, bloody Kofi. But even then, like Kofi, Brian probably is the exception to the rule, because I think Kofi and Big E fell flat on the face, and I think Vince was kind of vindicated in that as why he wasn't going down them routes in the first place. But with Vince, as I say, is a lot of the time, even when he went down the route that he wanted to, it normally worked out. Where I don't think for Tony it's worked out for him. That makes sense.
I can think of 3 instances where they dropped the ball on someone who the fans were completely behind.
Yeah.
And they did, and it was clear. The Outrunners are one. Harley Cameron, I guess, is still yet to be seen, but I feel like I don't know what they're doing with Mercedes Moné, and maybe I'm just crazy. I think Harley Cameron should have been the perfect person to take the title off of her and take the TBS title off of her in Australia,
Agreed.
in her hometown. Like, why not? Like, it could have been a thing where and then you take the title off for 2 weeks. I don't care, whatever.
Yeah.
But I feel like
But
Harley
she
Cameron
should have had that moment.
Yes, she earned that moment. She earned that spot. And then Nick's going to completely hate this last one, but it's Luchasaurus. Because in the very first year they started, Luchasaurus was incredibly over. COVID happened, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, there's no fans to tell us what to do anymore, so we're not going to do anything with him.
Yeah.
And
It's like
3 times where
even
it's like,
another one for me is Jack Perry. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not a fan of Jack Perry. I'm really not, and it's not because of anything to do with the Punk stuff. As much as I do love Punk, it's nothing to do with that. It's just the fact that I never really got him or liked him or anything. But when he started doing all the stuff with the Black Sheep and whatever, all the scapegoat stuff, it's like they could have went a lot. They had a bit of momentum with him there, and they never really done a lot with it.
They had a great idea, and then they didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah. And that seems to be the problem with AEW as a whole, is there's a lot of great ideas, but the execution's... I mean, do you know what? You could say the execution's lacking, but it's kind of like they either go too long, like they did with Hangman, and tell that big, long story, and then it kind of just pitters out, you know. Or you go the other way, where the idea is great, but they can't, as you say, they can't carry on that momentum through.
They haven't found their sweet spot.
No.
Now, a large part of the problem with the booking in AEW is the execution of the angles that they plan. Where take the Death Riders as a perfect example. It started really, really hot. and then they wouldn't tell the fans what the point was. That John Moxley, there was a certain extent
was
where
vague.
Moxley was
Way too
it was
vague.
very vague. That's a good way of describing it. It was very vague. It didn't. I'm not saying wrestling fans are stupid, because you two gentlemen are not stupid. I'm not stupid. But we live in a world of double-digit IQs, unfortunately, and you need to explain things to people.
To be fair, though,
You're not a sicko. You are.
Not always, though. You don't always have to explain things to them. Right? Lucky Number 11, the film's a prime example of that.
Great movie.
I sat there and watched that film, and it was so vague. I didn't have a bloody clue what was going on, but I still enjoyed learning about the story. And then when it all come together at the end, was just blew my mind. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I think that's probably where your problem is with AEW. Is like, okay, be vague, give us a bit, but be vague as you want. But where's the payoff at the end? And a lot of the time, that's where it's lacking. There's no payoff at the end of it. You know what I mean? It's like the vagueness doesn't bother me. The vagueness is fine. Vagueness can keep you interested to come back again and watch again each week.
You can still be entertaining while being vague.
Yeah. But it's and keep people interested because they want to come back and see what's going on more. You get intrigued by something. But eventually, it's got to all come together. And if it doesn't, that's where, you know.
For me, one of the problems with AEW is Tony's inability to book a babyface champion. Because he books really good chases for babyfaces. They're always very entertaining and very compelling on the chase for the title. But then as soon as Hangman's the perfect example, as soon as he gives that babyface the championship, I say Swerve is the exception to the rule, but Swerve was a bit of a tweener.
Yes, he was.
But as soon as you gave Hangman the championship, that was the most boring title run. Good matches.
Yeah, great.
Nothing wrong with the matches.
Great
matches, but the actual title run was boring as piss.
Yeah.
I would say the only babyface that I think that I enjoyed in AEW as champion is Darby as TNT champion.
I'll give you that.
I think that's the only one I can, like, off the top of my head.
MJF
wasn't really a babyface.
During the Adam Cole stuff, he was, and I did enjoy it. I just think it was one of those things where something happened, they didn't know how to pivot it, they just stuck with it way too long, and it fumbled, like it fell apart. It ended up sucking. But I did enjoy the MJF stuff. So
you know where a lot of the AEW like viewership's gone down year on year. Apart from last week was the first time year on year it went up, didn't it? But
agreed.
Like, do you think there's a lot? I mean, I'm probably one of these fans, and I don't know whether it's just me or it's thing, but like with the viewerships dropping and stuff, do you think you get to a point where it's kind of like you give it a chance, you try and see through a story, or you try and look at it, and then you get nothing out of it, and you kind of like, I can't be bothered with this anymore. I'll just watch the highlights now and again. Because if there's a good match, I will go and find that good match and watch it. But if I feel like watching a really good wrestling match, I will go and look for an AEW match. But in weekly TV, to me, that doesn't really. It's not must. It's not must see TV. It's not like that. I have to watch it every week to know what's going on there.
Well, you're talking to the perfect two people. Jimmy and I go back and check them out. Used to do a show called AEW Boom or Bust, which we did for couple of months, where we reviewed AEW's Dynamite every single week. And after a certain amount of time, we both just stopped.
Because the consistency, like it was like I wanted to do the show because I started liking it again, and then all of a sudden, after 2 months goes by, then all of a sudden I don't like it anymore, and then I'm like, I don't think I want to just. It becomes homework.
Talk about something I don't like. Instead of something we enjoyed doing, it was a pain in the arse because it was trying to find things positive to talk about, and it's difficult to do that when the consistency of the booking is never there. But moving on from AEW, because those we're going to lambast them for the entire night.
Sorry, just one question as well before we do go. Are they still making money? Does anyone know?
I don't.
I don't know.
I'll say this. I stopped caring because I came to the conclusion that it doesn't matter if they make money or if they lose money. As long as Tony Khan wants it to happen, it's going to happen.
Okay, well, that's my next question. So, Tony Khan's a good businessman, whether people think he is or he isn't. I mean, obviously, AEW being the exception to the rule because it's a passion project, isn't it? How long do you think that got? Because, honest to God, he is a good businessman because he owns Fulham FC in the UK.
But he also owns the Jacksonville Jaguars in the NFL, and it's routinely the most abysmal club in the league. It's terrible. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. Sorry.
See, but Fulham
That's
in
all right.
the
We're not
UK,
monetizing.
so if Fulham in the UK, they do really good.
Okay.
They have rules to stick inside PSR. They do that quite well. Got a good manager, good little setup. They do, they're not amazing or anything like that, but they're a solid, good team. And it's kind of like, how can he do really good business there, but not? I mean, Jacksonville, is it Tony who runs that, or is that?
It's both of them. They're both a part of it.
But Tony runs specifically Fulham on his own. It's well known that he is the guy who runs that, him on his own. And they run very, very well. And it's like, okay, when does the businessman Tony Khan get into the head and go, okay, this probably isn't working for me anymore?
How long has Fulham been good?
About 8 years, something like that.
Okay. Because I would just say, like, it feels like he's probably stretched too thin here. If he's trying to give so much attention to Fulham, and he's trying to give attention to Jacksonville Jaguars, and he's trying to give attention to AEW, no, it doesn't work. And it's why I've always said that he should probably find someone to just kind of take the reins of AEW and then just oversee it. Treat it like an owner where he just enjoys it, oversees it, and then let other people kind of run the show.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like he's a lot more invested in that in AEW than he is in his other businesses.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a hobby to him. So that's why I said, as long as he's interested, it's going to stay in business. It's never going to go anywhere.
And as Dale points out here, apparently, they're not really making money, but Warner Brothers Discovery has never been in a worse state. So to Warner Brothers,
they did just lose the NBA though too.
Yeah. But anyway, that's enough about AEW. We're going to move on to one of Jimmy's two favorite wrestlers, and Jacob Fatu. Right. Jacob just had an amazing 4-way match at Backlash. Tremendous, where Jeff Cobb, now JC Mateo, was introduced to the new bloodline, being not related to them in the slightest, but he looks vaguely Samoan, even though he's not. Even though he's nowhere near Samoan.
Commentary kind of didn't try to shy away from that either. They didn't try and say he was part of the bloodline. They said he was from, what did they say? They said he wrestled for some other country. So they're not trying to persuade us into thinking he's Samoan. So
no.
Kudos to them.
It's just yes, I agree with this. One, what do we all think of the name change? I think it's fine because it's basically his real name. His name is Jeffrey Charles Mateo. So calling him JC Mateo to me seems perfectly fine. I don't see an issue with this.
Walter became Gunther. It was fine. Eli Drake became LA Knight. It was fine. Punishment Martinez became Damian Priest. He's probably better off.
Fine. Yes. Yes, much better off. But this is the thing that I want to touch on. There's always a large amount of outrage from the internet wrestling fans.
No way.
Pardon me. When a wrestler gets their name changed to WWE, and Andy, I'm going to come to you first because you understand the business side of this. It's an intellectual property thing. I'm under the assumption, I've always been under the assumption it's an intellectual property matter, where the reason they change a wrestler's name is so they can own that name, promote that name, make money off that name, without having to give the wrestler rights and so on and so forth, even though he'll obviously get merchandise sales and everything else. But I've always considered it an intellectual property reasoning. Andy, is it?
Sorry, can you repeat that? Because I did lose you then. That's why the internet's messing around.
No, it's okay.
Is it for intellectual properties?
Yeah, so
100%.
Name changes in WWE.
100%, because they own that name, don't they? They've lost a couple who can, especially when you've got the likes of AEW in that there, because if that wrestler ever leaves, then either Moxley and all the rest of them, is they can't take the names over with them. So yeah, 100% it's for naming rights. It's business, mate, you know what I mean? It's like, I think WWE look at it and say, well, if you come to us, they know what commodity they are. You know what I mean? Like Jeff Cobb, good. Seen him a couple of times in New Japan and stuff like that. My lad, Ashton, never had a clue who he was until he seen him. Who's that big guy there? Oh, it's Jeff Cobb, that mate. Do you know what I mean? And he goes, no, he's not, because he had his other name. After the pay-per-view, after Backlash, he comes to me and was like, his name's not Jeff Cobb, you said he was called Jeff Cobb. And I went, well, he is, but the WWE have called him this now, and that is the problem. Well, it's not the problem, but that's why they do it, because WWE know they rise the stock of somebody. So instead of building somebody's name, they're building the name that they give them, that they own the intellectual rights to. Now, I don't know whether you've seen recently Indy Hartwell is an exception to that rule. Well, she's not an exception to the rule, but she bought her naming rights off WWE. They sold them to her.
Yes.
Is that what happened?
Yeah. So she turned around when she got released and said to them,
See,
"Can
Dale's
I buy
one
the
will
naming
never
rights?"
get monetized.
Yeah. But no, that was what happened. Is they turned around and said, she said to them, "Can I buy my naming right? Can I buy my name back?" And they said, "Yeah, fine."
Okay.
That's
I
what
knew
happened.
that she got to keep her name. I thought it was one of those just kind of goodwill things. Where
No. She paid them for it.
No, she bought the rights.
Yeah.
But how long do we think this bullshit is going to continue of people kicking off over name changes?
Never.
Because it's pointless.
Never.
No, it's never going to change. But
This is why I left, man. It's never going to change.
I know.
no.
I know.
And also the thing is once again, with Jim saying there, he left the interweb, i.e. Twitter, etc., yeah, because it's a small proportion of fans, mate. Like you say, I go, when is this going to stop? It's going to stop in that group that you're putting yourself in. So when you're putting yourself in this ICW madness that's online, I think probably potentially when you get to WrestleMania weekend or wherever else, how many of them are actually there?
Yeah, true.
You know
Very
what I mean? And, if you look at the overall crowds or revenue that WWE make, how much do they make up of that revenue? Probably about 5%, 10% max.
I would wager to bet they probably make up more. They're just playing the character online because it makes them look like smart marks.
Yeah.
But they still, like, I don't know how many times I saw like people say like, I'm never watching this again, and then like the next week they're talking like live tweeting about the shows, and it's like, you guys you're all liars, you're all fake, you're all just saying shit just to say shit, and it's like it's all dumb.
Yeah.
It's all dumb.
Well, I was saying to the
I'm cool with that name, Dale.
I was saying to Cy and Nick, Jim, there's two guys on Twitter I stopped following. I mean, I'm getting very, very low in what I consume in wrestling news because, one, since I've stopped doing it as much of what reading on the internet and stuff, I've started enjoying shows more because I don't get spoilers or anything like that. Yeah. But also, one of the things that used to annoy me is there was these two Twitter accounts, and I can't remember what they were called. I'm not going to blast them, but it's like their whole Twitter account was dedicated to tell you how much wrestling was on a WWE show each week, and it's like, for me, ignorance is bliss. Like, stop telling me. I don't care. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, there was only 40 minutes of wrestling in a 2-hour show. Like, mate, I don't care. Shut up.
I enjoyed like, an hour and 50 minutes of it, though. So
yeah. That's it. And it's like, stop. Like, no, but when it's putting that mindset into you that you look at that and going, oh, well, I only got that. And it's like, it ruins something that if I wasn't reading what they put, I wouldn't even think about. Yeah, and that's why I've tried to limit the consumption a bit more because of that, you know what I mean?
I've tried to beat that into so many people's brains. Like, these things wouldn't matter if you weren't online consuming them. And
correct.
That's how we used to consume it when we really enjoyed it the most. So why wouldn't you try to at least go back to that to an extent?
Jimmy, you and I take a trip back in time every Friday Nitro Review, live every week.
So much more fun.
Every Friday, and it's so much fun. Because we're watching stuff that we didn't see everything of when we were younger, so we're getting to experience it fresh. There's no bullshit of people online going, this was bad, this is bad.
There's nobody telling
sucked.
me like, oh, well, there was only 20 minutes of wrestling on that show, or, well, did you know that guy backstage said this and he wasn't going to, like, who gives a
Who cares?
Yeah.
Who really cares?
Yeah.
If you do, you're not a fan of wrestling, you're a fan of wrestling drama.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I can be a bit like thingy, I'll go on to Chelsea Green in a minute, but it's like some of this backstage stuff, I'm like, I'm not bothered anymore, and it's probably why we kind of always, like, online, how we found each other, because we probably all got the same kind of thing, where it's like, okay, call shit out when shit's there, but don't make up shit, and I think that's why we all, like, kind of gravitated towards each other back in the day, wasn't it, you know what I mean, 5 years ago now, which is scary,
I know.
but
we're all getting told.
Like, Twitter is the worst for it all. X is called now is terrible. Like, Jim, you know yourself, mate. I've always communicated with you through Facebook because I can't bear to go on Twitter a lot of the time.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I'm the kind of person where it's there, so I'm going to use it. And it just sucks because the whole reason for me getting on that app was so that I could share wrestling with other wrestling fans. And then it's just not, you can't.
No,
you just
no.
can't. And it's sad. So
See, I've had people like call personal things out to me and stuff like that, and I'm like, have you ever seen your real life? I'd break all your keyboard fingers, you know what I mean?
Those
it's
are
like,
the ones that made me laugh the most.
Yeah, and also, to be honest, it's quite sad because it's like, you know, I'm not being funny, but I've got family, I've got bills, I've got real life shit going on. It's like, you know, am I really gonna, like, is it really gonna ruin me day over wrestling? Not really, you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong, sometimes I'll go, it was a bit of a waste of time or whatever else, you know, if I didn't like the show or whatever, but, you know, do I sit there having a bad day because of it? No.
Let me go on a week-long tirade about it.
Well, it's like I saw a video on YouTube the other day. I haven't watched it because I'm not interested. Titled 12 Mistakes Triple H has made that he needs to fix to save WWE. And I'm there going, save WWE. One, they're making more money than they ever have.
Sold out arenas.
Everywhere they go.
Can I just say something negative?
WWE?
Can I say something negative about that? So, Triple H, no problem with. WWE is really hot right now. The only thing I have got a massive problem with is there's a Shapiro or whatever coming out the other day saying about how we're doubling this ticket sales and doing this and doing that revenue. I don't like that because it's at the expense of the fans. And when I seen it, I was kind of like, you piece of shit.
No. I'd agree with that.
I feel like that's just part of the business, though. Like, if something isn't high in demand, you're going to charge more for it. So I understand.
100. I'm not saying about the charging.
Stupid, yeah.
That's what I mean. It's like kind of, I understand supply and demand. I understand that, you know. I'm a big, if you look at Ticketmaster, I hate Ticketmaster because of the dynamic pricing. I think it's disgusting and I think it should be banned. It should be, you pay what you pay and that's you pay, the point. None of this, because, you know, even Shapiro mentioned dynamic ticket pricing, saying it's actually brought up more revenue for them, which I'm just like, no, shouldn't be the case. Is you pay what you pay, that's the price. You don't walk into a shop and then get to the till and they turn around and say to you, well, no, it's this amount. It's a set price. But
yeah, 3 people just bought that same shirt, so we're going to raise the price right now.
Yeah. I don't like that, and I think they are starting to price out a lot of fans, you know what I mean? Like WrestleMania for me, always very, very achievable. Been to 39.40, do you know what I mean? But looking at this year's price for the ticket that I got for LA, which was a really good seat, really good view, and it was like, I think this year it was probably like 3 times, nearly 4 times the amount. I think it was even more than that, do you know what I mean? And it's just like, come on, man, you know.
That's why we made the trip to Las Vegas, but we didn't go.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it. I'll just go watch all the other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, bear in mind, to be fair, though, I think what I did learn from this year, and I said this to you, Nick, didn't I, is like, I will go to a WrestleMania, I'll probably go next year, but I will buy a ticket the day before, because some of the tickets that were like 50, I think there was like second tier tickets that were going for like $300, $200 the day before.
The tickets that were on sale on those last moments were not great seats, though. And what made them like really not great is they didn't have the screens this year. Because the whole reason I was waiting for the tickets to drop, and I was like, if they get to 100, I'll buy these seats. Yeah. Because I was afraid I was going to get those pillars right in my way, which is what happens, you know, in the corner.
Yeah.
But this year they didn't do the pillars, but then there was no TV screen, so you couldn't see anything. Right. It was really, it was a bad layout. Like,
did you go to New Orleans last time, Jim?
I was gonna go, and then my friend backed out the last minute because we found tickets for like $26 a week. Yeah,
because I think next year that will be the pricing will be down a lot, because I think like this year when you go into Vegas, you know they're gonna have people in town who'll go, etc., etc. When it's in somewhere like New Orleans, you are going specifically for WrestleMania, and I don't think they'll sell as well as what they think they will.
I think it's a spot where people who normally wouldn't go might go just so they can go experience New Orleans on top of that. Because it's a big place that the people in this country like to go to get stupid. Because it never closes. Nothing's ever closed. You go to a bar at 5:30 in the morning. Like, it's always open. So
Yeah. Okay. Maybe
I might
that's
make the
thing.
drive over. I'm not making any set plans just because it is a short drive for me.
Yeah.
Jim,
No, I'm
to be
the
fair,
same.
you don't make set plans any year, and you go every year.
I made set plans the first like 3, I think.
I'll be honest. Until they announced New Orleans, I was a bit peeved because I thought we might get it in London, which I still think we will do at some point. Well, I'm hoping we do anyway.
Well, they're in talks again, aren't they? So
Yeah. But I'll be honest. Before New Orleans was announced, I was more interested in Riyadh for Royal Rumble.
no.
Because I think probably for the same reasons, like it's somewhere I'd never go on planet Earth.
And the Royal
Apart
Rumble is
from-
way
Yeah.
funner.
I always want to go to a Royal Rumble.
Way fun. That's the most I've ever spent on going to a show with the family, and I didn't regret one penny of it. It was a blast.
Yeah. Because you've got Thingy this year as well. I mean, it's 2 nights SummerSlam, which will be interesting to see how that does.
Yes.
But I do think, like, I mean, everyone went on about getting Vince out and all the rest of it, but, this is what you're going to get with someone like TKO. They're going to squeeze every single bean they can out of it. But I think what they're probably going to struggle with is wrestling, as we know, goes through cycles. And I think as much as it's very hot right now, it'll probably stay hot-ish, but it will naturally have a downturn.
I'm curious to see how with the TKO merger and it being attached to UFC, because UFC has been hot for years.
It's not at the moment, though.
Is it? I don't even follow anymore because I just lost interest in it.
That's why there's a big thing about the pay-per-views, because apparently they're not even coming close to the agreed kinds of viewing figures that ESPN wanted. So they thought they were going to go to Netflix, and basically Netflix told them they didn't want them.
Haha, Dana White, suck it.
Yeah, so I don't think they're doing as... I mean, gate-wise, they're still doing well, because I think people just want to go and, not trying to be rude here, but if you've seen a dog having sex with a cat, you just pop your head out to see because you'd be curious.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I think it's kind of one of them where people go to the UFC just because it's like, oh, well, let's go and see what this is all about.
Let's go see this guy get his head smashed in.
I mean, the thing is, the problem you've got with WWE is, and as much as I can't stand it, this Travis Scott and these people like this, is like, Darren Till, who's a friend of mine, I know him quite well. He was in the UFC for quite a while. He's fighting on a thing called Misfits Boxing at the moment, which is like influencer boxing, which is good for him. He's making probably 5 times the money he was making in the UFC.
Yeah, because UFC is the pay scale in UFC is terrible, and that's why I don't like it.
Yeah, it's awful.
Well, that's it. But what I'm trying to say is these influencer boxings on Misfits are making bagloads of money, because otherwise, how are they paying them?
They're better promoters.
Exactly.
Unbelievable, mate, the money they're making. And that's why it's like, I think WWE will probably bend, as sad as we see. I think Kenny Omega's good, probably segue here, is like Kenny Omega said, didn't he? A couple of years you'll probably see Mr. Beast versus bloody whoever in WrestleMania, and he's probably not wrong, mate. You're probably always going to have these influences and things like that coming into this now, because of as much as we as wrestling fans don't like it.
It puts eyes on the product, mate. That's the simple fact.
You know me, my
Logan
thing's
Paul,
always been...
Logan, give me a sec. Logan Paul is an arse. Right? We all know this. Everybody knows this. But he's got millions and millions and millions of followers.
He's a
He puts
fantastic
eyes
promoter.
He puts eyes onto WWE. He's made himself a billionaire, right, in his 20s. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he works hard at the craft that he chooses to do at the time. So he puts eyes on the product. As long as these people are putting eyes on the product and putting asses in seats, it's going to keep happening.
I mean, the thing is as well, like, I've said it for years, I always kind of look at my son's reaction, because he's 15 or 14, sorry, nearly 15. He's in that kind of influencer world, and he's influenced by the influencers, as one I call it. Yeah. And like, he was so like, oh my god, Travis Scott was in WWE, what? And I'm kind of like, I'm looking at it thinking, okay, you know what I mean? And it's like,
yeah,
I get it now, I get it.
That's why, like, back in the day when I did those Raw recaps and I was like saying all these nice things, I was literally, even if I didn't like it, I'm looking at what Amanda sees and she likes. I'm looking at what my son sees and he likes. I'm looking at what her daughter sees and likes. Whereas we all like different things. It's all for everyone. So I can sit there and complain about it all day, but that's kind of selfish to think that everything should be tailor-made for me when that's not what
Exactly.
it is.
Yeah, like I'm very surprised that WWE have not gone in for the likes of Sonny Kiss and people like that to try and get them type of people watching and things like that. You know what I mean?
Them type of people.
Well, them
that was very political, Andy.
that demographic. Sorry, I don't want to come across like I'm being thingy. You know what I mean? But
I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's like that demographic of person again is like they want to reach out to everybody, don't they? You know what I mean? And I'm not going to sit here and go, oh, they want to be so inclusive, because we all know it's about money, so it doesn't really matter who's what with them. But you know, someone like that, it brings something, maybe a different demo to them, which is.
I think with the current political climate going on and who's in charge over here, I don't think that's something we'll see happening in WWE anytime soon, though.
No.
Yeah, good point. Very good point.
No. Right, moving on. Okay, to Jimmy's favourite wrestler in the world. Dirty Dominic Mysterio. I have one simple question for you, lads. How long should... Two questions. How long should his reign be? Who should beat him? In your opinions. Go on, Jim.
Do you want the fan answer or do you want my real answer?
Give me both. Give me both.
My fan answer is he's never losing that damn title, and nobody's going to beat him for it. Straight up. Like, it's just not going to happen. Realistically. I told you, I think I told you the other day, I think Sheamus makes the perfect sense because he's a guy that you plug him in anywhere. He could be a main event guy. He could be a mid-card guy. He could be a guy that puts people over. And Dom loses nothing by losing to Sheamus.
Agreed.
And
Do you think he has a short run, Jim?
no, SummerSlam maybe. So
That close.
I don't think he needs to have a long run with it. I think if there's something that comes out of the other end with it, I always want that to be the case. One, I said why I wanted him to go with To Live and dump Rhea was because I thought it would help Rhea become more over as a face. It would get Liv over as just a character in general, and it would give him progression. And all three of those things worked. So
Correct.
I think if Sheamus was to beat him for that title, depending on the fan reaction, it would put Sheamus over. It would get him back to a level that he should probably be at. Like, he does his job. Like, I think he should be rewarded every once in a while, and I think that would be fair. And beating Dom would be like a good thing for him to, like, for the fans to buy into it again. And if Dom holds the title too long, I think we get into the thing where everybody's holding a title for too long. I don't like it. I remember back in the day on Raw, man, someone would win the Intercontinental title, and then the next week, someone might beat that guy for it. It's like, I think I want to see more of that. And whereas Dom is great, and I love him, and I think he does everything absolutely wonderful.
Yeah,
I don't think his character warrants that kind of title run.
No, especially when he's the dirty one at the moment. But I mean, I wouldn't mind like see him do a long title run. It wouldn't particularly annoy me enough. But I think you know, the babyface turn's going to be more big for him than the title is, in my opinion.
Yeah, he doesn't need that title. It was just like, hey, after everything you've done, man, this is a nice little reward for you.
Kind of, Dale, yeah.
Yeah, he definitely is, Dale. Definitely is. I just think it's one of them. He's a good carrier, isn't he? I think what Jimmy's trying to say is like he's a good carrier, and when the time's right, popping the belt off him is probably not the worst of things.
Well,
do you think Money in the Bank next year for Dom would be a good one?
I think we have to wait till we see where things are at, honestly, because that changes so much these days. Like, it just changes so much. So I would want him to win the world title for the first time without that briefcase, though.
Okay.
I don't think they do that enough with people anymore. Like, your first title win being that big. Whereas with Money in the Bank, it kind of cheapens it a little bit.
Yeah.
They can kind of like, you had to cash in. Well, he didn't have to cash in, so that would be really good for him.
Sorry, can you bring up his comments here? How dare you? How very dare you?
Dale, stop smoking crack.
That was a bit harsh, Nick, wasn't it?
No.
He's smoking Kratom.
Yeah. Right. Whatever you're smoking, stop it.
Natalia is the female Disco Inferno. I'll have you know.
Bro, come on now.
Oh,
This goes way better than that, man. Come on.
You're talking to Disco Inferno's #1
I
fan
love
here,
this
Jimmy.
Inferno.
Oh God! Right, can we
Idiot
talk about
now.
Chelsea Green?
What about her?
Go on, man.
What's going on?
Right. She's great. Everything she does is great.
So why did they take the title off her? And why did they have a losing
Wait.
Money in the Bank qualifier?
Because they bought AAA is why they took the title off her and they put it on a Latino star.
Well, they put her on a Latino.
Okay, a Latino. But that's why that she lost the US title, is because they bought AAA. As far as what's going on with her, Chelsea is, just my opinion, Chelsea is a victim of her own success. Chelsea Green is a perfect example of maximizing your minutes on television. Like, when they were giving her nothing but little 2-minute segments with Nick Aldis, she was week in, week out the most entertaining thing on SmackDown. She's still one of the most entertaining things on SmackDown. But because she's so entertaining without the belt and without winning, they don't need to push her in that way.
That does suck. Hey, I agree with that 100%. I think it was one of those things where let's give her an opportunity and see what happens with it, because Chelsea will not lose anything by dropping this out. If anything, it gives her more ammunition to work with the character.
Exactly.
I'll be totally honest with you. With Chelsea, I thought when she lost the title, I was like, okay, she's going to move up now, and I was kind of like, good. Do you know what I mean? As you say, I don't think she lost anything by losing the title, but it's like, do you think we see her in Money in the Bank? Do you think she gets in there in the end?
Oh,
There's always the chance for the second chance
Maybe.
qualifier.
Yeah.
I don't think so. But again, I don't know if I ever want to see her in that main event scene. As much as I love her, I think the character she plays is great. And now that we have a secondary title, they can tier the women instead of trying to just force one up.
I think Chelsea does well as a champion, though, especially with Pippa and Big Chin.
For sure, but I like the idea of there being tiers at this point. Like, because when you look at Chelsea Green, you don't look at her in the same aspect as you look at someone like Rhea Ripley or Io or
I do.
I don't. Like, realistically, like, those girls are like the top of the food chain, whereas Chelsea is like, she's the entertainer. She's kind of like Dominic Mysterio in the sense she's just entertaining. Dom can wrestle on top of that, though, but she's the entertainment of the show.
Chelsea can wrestle, dude.
I'm not saying she can't.
That's what I mean.
But
Like, you tell
I'm
me
not
what's
gonna sit
different between Chelsea and Bailey, apart from Chelsea's more entertaining.
Chelsea's more entertaining. Bailey's a better wrestler.
Bailey is a better wrestler.
Yeah,
I
she's
don't
better.
think I would have
But
Bailey in that main event level anymore, though. I don't
no,
think so.
Guessing,
I agree.
by the
Well,
sounds of it, Andy, the men in white coats are coming for you.
I do see Chelsea at the top end. I do. I really do. And I think having the secret purpose, as they call them, with it and all the rest of it, just adds like layers to it. Do you know what I mean? And I'm really like kind of a la Seth Rollins, J&J. You know what I mean? Kind of thing.
Okay. Well, I love everything that Chelsea does. Like, I have done for years. I loved her hot mess gimmick in TNA. I think she's a phenomenally entertaining worker. I just think that she, as I say, she's a victim of her own success. She's so good at what she does.
No, she is.
The company looks at her and say, well, you're fine doing this. We don't need you to push you to here because you're already making us a shitload of money here.
Yeah, it's a good point. But I just think for me, is like when she was hot mess and all the rest of the bits she was doing, they're all great and they're all in that. But I think the character and what she's doing now could fit into that main event scene. That's what I mean. It's not, you know what I mean? What she's doing right now.
I think she's perfectly capable of getting in the main event. I just think she's so good at what she does. The company's like, well, we don't need to put you there.
Yeah, it just annoyed me so much as well that Pippa and Moonhead didn't get nowhere near the tag titles. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I understand with the Becky situation, but
so if for whatever reason she does win those, I'm not upset about it. I'll just make that clear because I love Chelsea Green. It's Dominic, Jacob Fatu, and Chelsea Green are the top three things in WWE right now. So if she gets there, fantastic. I'll dance the night away, but I just personally don't think it's necessary for her. I think mid card is just. I think that's some talent, and that's okay.
See here with Money in the Bank for me, it'd be great. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
With the secret, with the purpose and running round and having the briefcase and you know what I mean. All that'd be really cool. Like, and I think if you look at what's available in the women's division again, having her winning that and going up there would be quite refreshing because one, you could have a lose a lot before she cashes in because that's the way they do it. But also, who are you going to really have win Money in the Bank without rinse and repeat, really?
Well, you say it's rinse and repeat, but they've never had a 2-time winner.
That's because it hasn't been going that long, Nick.
I think Naomi is a perfect candidate for it.
She's a boring ass, is she? Shit.
I love Naomi right now. I didn't like her before. I love the new.
Proceed with caution. Naomi's very entertaining.
And with Jade kind of teasing the whole going after the title, Naomi being there to just screw of it is very entertaining to me.
Yeah. Right, gents, but we are fast running out of time.
Yeah, sorry. Nick's just asked. Dale's just asked a good question there.
There we go.
Because she doesn't talk. That's it.
Yeah. Lyra is very good at telling stories physically in the ring.
She's the female Ricochet.
But she also has shown out the last 2 weeks when she went at Becky on the mic. I think she did.
Oh, yeah.
I think Becky's
she did a great job.
What's needed out of her.
Yeah, I think also for me, sorry to say, but with all the stupid wings and all this shit, it's like, you know, it's not really a main event character. Yeah, do you know what I mean?
Well, as you said, she was in the process of becoming a song.
She was.
Which is never good.
She was.
But we are fast running out of time, lads, so I have one simple question for you. What is your unpopular wrestling opinion this week?
I'm not prepared.
No, I know you're not. That's why I did it.
I think I said mine earlier when I think Ricochet is an AEW world title winner. I think he's that level.
Okay. Well, my unpopular wrestling opinion this week is Hangman Page is trash. No, I'm sorry. He's been running the same shtick. He's been running the same shtick for 2 years. He gets over because his opponents are 10 times better than him. And he's putting. You're telling me Swerve isn't better than Adam Page?
I didn't say that, but you're saying 10 times better.
Yes, I think Swerve is 10 times better than Adam.
This man
Hangman
hates
Page.
Hangman like I hate Rey Mysterio.
Adam Hangman Page was the longest reigning member of the decade in Ring of Honor as a young boy for a reason. He could never get over in a company that was all about wrestling and had no gimmick requirements. Now he's in a company that's all about wrestling and has virtually no gimmick requirements, and he tries to use his gimmick to get over instead of his wrestling. It's backwards. It makes no sense. Hangman Page is trash. If he beats Will Ospreay in the Owen Hart tournament final, I am going to be fuming. Andy, what is your unpopular wrestling opinion?
He's going to be fuming.
Obafemi's a cuckold, and
yeah.
And Joe Hendry versus Swerve Strickland should be main event on the NXT Takeover.
Swerve Strickland.
You mean Trick Williams?
Trick Williams, sorry.
No, I agree with that.
Or something?
Yeah, I agree.
That was in the chamber. He's like, I'm ready for it.
Yeah, you've been holding that one. You've been holding that one for weeks.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I think it's kind of sad when you've got other people who are well over you in the company when you're the champion.
Yeah, I'd agree.
I mean, saying that, though, we've got that on the main roster with Jey Uso, haven't we?
Yeah. Gentlemen, that is the show. Jimmy, thank you very much for joining us. Would you like to shill anything?
Just follow me on Instagram so you can know where I'm going to be talking about wrestling. That's all. I think it's Jimmy Bebe something. Drip King of Wrestling, maybe. I'm not that well.
You can find myself. And you can find myself and Jimmy every Friday on Spotify and YouTube doing the Friday Nitro review. We are going back over every WCW Monday Nitro. It's going to take us about 4.5 years, but it's going to be good. It's been great so far. Andy, anything you want to shill?
No. Come back next week.
Yeah, so Spotify is Drip King of Wrestling. So yeah, do that. There you go. I forgot about it. Thank you.
Yeah, if you enjoy what we do here at Wrestling Legion, if you like the content we put out, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and just spread the word. Let everybody know where we are. It's free. It really helps us out. It's the only way the YouTube algorithm knows we exist. I've been Nick the Geek. That has been Andy the Redeemer. That has been the Drip King, Jimmy Bay. And remember, we are but three geeks obsessed with a good show, and our opinion means
Can I
nothing
do it?
without yours. In the comments below, Andy.
Wrestling Legion, we make it make sense.
You know what I mean?